The following clip is from the North to South Show, live every Monday and Wednesday at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, where we talk SEC football everything. Now, we'd love to have you out for next show, but for now, hit that like button down below, hit that subscribe button, and enjoy this clip. Because it is now time for definitely one of the best segments I've ever done, because this was really, really fun to do. And if you haven't done it yourself, I encourage you to go do it, and then tell me in the comments or whatever it is, just let me know. What is your fantasy unit draft of the SEC? So basically the rules for this, if you didn't watch this in my Big Ten prediction video, first of all, go watch that video if you haven't. But if you didn't watch this in my Big Ten predictions video, what I am doing is I am trying to pick unit by unit and build the best SEC team I possibly can. So we are going by the positions: quarterback, we are going with wide receiver, running back, O-line, D-line, linebackers, and then we got our DBs. So what I'm trying to do is I pick a unit from each team and everything like that, and I'm trying to build the best SEC team possible. Now here's the catch. I'm only allowed to pick one unit from each team. So let's say I take Alabama's quarterback. So let's say I take Bryce Young. Take him. I can no longer take Alabama's running backs. I can't take their wide receivers. I can't take their O-line. I can't take their DBs. You get the gist. I cannot take anything else Alabama. Everything goes for all the other teams. If I take Arkansas's wide receivers, I can't take their DBs, I can't take their linebackers, I can't take all this stuff. So I think you guys get where I'm going with this. I have two teams, so the first team I'm doing is kind of my first SEC team, all unit team, and then the second one is going to consist of all the teams that didn't get featured in the first team. So without further ado, let's get on with our list. Starting off with the first team, and what better way to kick it off? Do we start off with the quarterback? I think we got to start off with the quarterback. So my quarterback for the SEC, if you've been watching this channel for a long time and you have watched my SEC quarterback rankings, you know I am very, very high on this player and basically what team he plays for. I think that this offense is going to be really good. Now, the defense, on the other hand, is a big question, but I think that you'll be able to guess who and what team's unit I picked for the quarterback position, because I took the Ole Miss Rebels quarterback, and that is obviously Matt Corral. Now, Matt Corral having an insane season last year. Ole Miss offensively really having an insane season last year, and I think he's the best quarterback in the SEC, and this was really an easy pick considering you look at the rest of the units that Ole Miss have. I like their wide receivers. I like their running backs and everything like that. I'm probably not going to take any of their defensive units, but I don't think anything comes close to their quarterback position, and just the other teams that have great units at certain spots and whatever. I thought that this was the best place to use Ole Miss for their unit, get the best quarterback in the SEC, get a dual threat guy with a great arm. Yes, he threw 6 interceptions against Arkansas. We can forget about that. Matt Corral is the best quarterback in the SEC in my opinion, so mark it down. I take Ole Miss at the quarterback position. Now, finishing up our offense, I have the Florida Gators. Now, this is an interesting one because we have wide receiver U in the SEC, whether you want to classify that as Alabama or LSU or wherever you want to do it. I classify Alabama as wide receiver U, but you look at the guys that you got for Florida this season. Justin Shorter. Oh, this is wide receiver and tight end, by the way. So you're going to hear guys like Gamble. You're going to hear guys like, obviously, Shorter, Zippier. Actually, Shorter's a wide receiver. So you're going to hear some tight ends in here, but you got Shorter, you got Copeland, you got Henderson, you got Whittemore, you got Gamble, and you got Zippier. So I think that Florida is a top-notch, I don't want to say top tier, but you can call it top notch, where you like group a bunch of different teams in there. In terms of the SEC, they got a really, really good wide receiver room this year. They do lose a ton of guys from last year. You're talking about Kyle Pitts isn't on here, Grimes isn't on here, Tony's not on here, but I still think Florida has a really, really good wide receiver room. Some other units that you definitely could have looked at for Florida, I think their DBs could have been a good mark if to put them in. Maybe their linebacking core, maybe even Emory Jones at the quarterback position. But ultimately, I think Florida was the best team to put at wide receiver with the teams that I'd already taken at other positions for obvious reasons, which we're going to get to in a second. But that's who I am taking at wide receiver. Now moving on to running back. Now running back was a bit of a tough one because you got some really, really good units in the SEC. You got teams like, first of all, Texas A&M is going to be good. Alabama's going to be good. Georgia's going to be good. South Carolina has a good running back room. You got Kentucky's going to have a good running back room. Auburn's going to have a good running back room. But the team that I ultimately decided would be the best fit for running back Taking their best unit, in my opinion, I am taking the Texas A&M Aggies, where we're going to have guys like Isaiah Spiller. We're going to have Anais Smith, whether you consider him a running back or a wide receiver. I still consider him a running back who can catch passes. And you got Devon A-Chain. So I think they have an amazing room back there. Going to be very productive. First of all, Isaiah Spiller is one of the best running backs in the whole nation. Forget just the SEC. He's one of the best running backs in the whole nation. He's up there with Breece Hall, your Bijan Robinson. Anais Smith is one of the best all-purpose backs, if that's what you want to call him, in the whole country. Cannot wait to see what he could do this season. And A-Chain, again, a young guy who really broke out onto the scene last year. Obviously had a big run against North Carolina. I think that Texas A&M is going to have a huge season in the ground game. Now, their O-line, I think, still needs to gel together a bit more, and we're going to see how they do early on, but I still think that their O-line will be fine. And really, this rushing game is going to flourish and have an amazing season this year. Looking at the other units that we could have taken for Texas A&M, you could have looked at their D-line is very good. Definitely could have taken a good look at their D-line. Maybe like their DBs, I think also would be an interesting unit to look at, but ultimately I think it was an easy choice to take them at running back. Now looking at the O-line for my first team, all SEC unit team, is the Kentucky Wildcats. Now, Kentucky, again, same with Florida. They were the best team I could have taken from the teams I hadn't already taken. So Kentucky definitely has one of the best O-linemen in all the SEC and all the country for that matter in Darian Kinnard this season. But you also look at other guys like Kenneth Horsey. You look at guys like Luke Fortner. I think Kentucky's going to have a very, very good O-line. Obviously, they had a really successful rushing game last season with Chris Rodriguez Jr. But I think the O-line for Kentucky, this was a pretty much easy choice. With all the teams that I had already picked and set their positions, Kentucky was really the best team at O-line I could have taken. So I am taking the Kentucky Wildcats for my O-line. That finishes off our all first team offense, where we have Ole Miss at quarterback, Texas A&M's running back room, Florida's wide receivers and tight ends, and then we have Kentucky's O-line. So now moving on to our defense. And the defense is really, really scary. Like, we're going to get to it once we are done this, like, talking about who I have at each thing. I'm just going to give you my starting defense for what I'd have for this SEC team, and it is terrifying. Like, don't get me wrong, that offense that I just named, very, very good. They're going to put up 40-plus points each and every game this season. But I tell you, this defense is something really, really scary, and you probably know who is where, what team is where already before even I tell you. So, first of all, starting off with the D-line, easy choice. You go with the Georgia Bulldogs. You go Jordan Davis. You go Devontae Wyatt. You go Trevon Walker. No other team, I'd say, competes with Georgia in the SEC right now for D-line. Even talking about Alabama. Alabama has a very talented defensive front, but I think Georgia's just on another level right now. The only team that I see competing with them on a national level for having the best D-line is Clemson. I'd probably give the slight edge to Clemson right now. Nothing against the Georgia guys, and even though I hate to say it because I am the most loyal South Carolina Gamecocks fan ever, Clemson's just got some ballers on that D-line, but that's not taken away from what you have in Georgia, because Georgia also has a ton of ballers. This D-line is going to be lethal this season. Impossible to rush against. They're going to get after the quarterback, and it was the easiest decision over JT Daniels at quarterback, over Georgia back's running back room, over Georgia's wide receiver tight end room, over all of these things, Georgia DBs, Georgia's linebackers. D-line was the easiest choice for Georgia, so I stuck them there. I think this might have been the first or second team I picked at the position as a total, because I didn't do this like orderly. I didn't go, oh, I want to take the best option at QB and then I want to take the best option at wide running back. I took the best option, or the teams that were most standout at each unit first, so Georgia was definitely one of those teams. Next up, we have our linebackers, and our linebackers, again, this was the easiest choice in the world. There's no team that touches this team in terms of linebackers, at least in my opinion right now. We have the Alabama Crimson Tide. Will Anderson, Christian Harris, Henry To'oTo'o, Christopher Allen, and you could even add Jalen Moody if you want to there. The talent that is on this team, the NFL, the Sunday talent that is in this linebacker room is very, very scary. And teams that got to go up against Alabama this season, this defense is going to be insane. Cannot wait to watch it. Like, you just talked about Alabama's D-line. They're good. You talk about Alabama's DB room. They're good, but I think their linebacking core is just something on another planet this season. Very excited to see what they're going to do this season. And then moving on to finally our DBs, I took the LSU Tigers. Now, there are a couple schools. Once I'm done the first team, I'm going to go through and tell you guys what are some changes I could have made, what are some units I could have shifted and everything like that wouldn't overly drastically change the outcome of this team because I think I have the best team possible right now. But for the sake of the video, I'll throw in some other scenarios. But the DBs, obviously, I took LSU, and ignoring what happened last year, we have Durante Jones coming in as the defensive coordinator at LSU, so things are going to be changing for LSU. Hopefully LSU will be getting a lot better defensively because obviously Bo Pelini did not have a great or a stellar season at all last season at LSU, but you just look at the raw talent of players that you have out there for LSU. Derek Stingley could be argued the best player in all of college football. Elias Ricks, who was one of the best breakout freshmen all season in the SEC last year. Todd Harris at safety. Sage Ryan, 5-star coming in for LSU. Derek Davis Jr. at safety. Very talented DB room. Cannot wait to see what they're able to do this year. And you just look at this defense. So I'm going to give you guys my starting defense, my starting 11 on the defensive side of the ball. So starting off at, let's do our D-line. So our D-line is going to look like this. We're going to put Christopher Allen at the outside linebacker position. So he's going to be starting up on the line. You got Davis, you got Wyatt, you got Walker, all on the D-line. Then at linebacker, so I'm going to 4-3. What was that? Yeah, 4-3-4 here. I'm going Will Anderson, Henry To'oTo'o at the mic. You're going to have Christian Harris out on the right, and then in the DBs, you're going to have Derek Stingley as obviously cornerback 1. You're going to have Elias Ricks as quarterback 2, and then you're going to have Harris at safety, and then I'm putting Sage Ryan in actually at safety instead of Derek Davis Jr. I just think I'm really excited to see what Sage Ryan can do this season, but imagine being a team going out on Saturday, any given Saturday, and having to go up against that. You could go all the way. You put this defense in, let's say, New Mexico State, and you even go into that stadium where there's like, let's say there's no fans at the game, anything like that. You have like 100 spectators, something like that. But New Mexico State's defense looks like this. That would still be the most intimidating atmosphere you probably go into all season because this defense is lethal. Again, I said it. I still think the offense is very, very good, but that defense is insane. The defense is just on another level. So now let's get into what are some things I could have switched around. I think an easy one just off the bat without making a huge change. I think you switch Georgia and Texas A&M. You put Texas A&M's running back room or Georgia's running back room, and then you take Texas A&M's D-line. I think that they're both really good at both positions. I don't think it will make a huge change, but I think Georgia has the better D-line, and I think Texas A&M has the better running back room. Another one that took me a while to go through and everything, I was thinking about putting LSU at wide receiver and taking Booty there. Obviously, he's going to be the main guy, but they still got a ton of talent over there as well. And then with LSU at the wide receiver position, I was going to put a different school that I have not said yet, which will be talked about in the second team at the DBs. So interesting there. I thought about kicking Florida out completely. They just made this team, the first team. I didn't initially have them, but then I started thinking about it and probably thought that it'd be best for this team to put Florida in at wide receiver instead of LSU and let LSU's DBs take over the first team. And then what are some other changes, minor changes I could have made? I don't want to change the quarterback room because if you take, let's say, just switch the quarterback, switch Matt Corral, you're taking out Georgia's D-line, you're taking out Alabama's linebacking core, you're taking out probably LSU's DBs if you want to talk Miles Brennan or Max Johnson. You're taking out Emory Jones, or you're taking out Florida's wide receivers if you want to put Emory Jones in there. Those are all positions that I don't really want to change. The only thing, actually, talking about this, it wouldn't be a terrible thing to put Emory Jones at quarterback and then have Ole Miss's wide receivers and tight ends because Ole Miss has some great pass catchers this season, but I think Matt Corral is just a step above Emory Jones right now. So honestly, I wouldn't change anything about this. I've just given you guys some little things that here and there, if you were to change the team, the overall outcome of the team wouldn't really change. So now it is time to get to my second team SEC, all SEC team in my positions draft. So first of all, starting off with the quarterback, this will be all teams that I did not name on the other team. You're going to have the Missouri Tigers. So obviously going out, grabbing a guy like Connor Bazelak is going to be the guy there. Obviously won SEC Freshman of the Year. He's my guy at quarterback. At wide receiver, tight end, I took the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Jaden Wally's going to be the big guy there, 110%. But other than that, you're going to have guys like Austin Williams, Malik Heath, and Ledrick Griffin there. Looking at the running back room, easy choice for me. I take my South Carolina Gamecocks. You get Kevin Harris, you get Marshawn Lloyd, you get Saquandre White, you get Rashad Amos, you get Caleb McDowell. I think South Carolina's running back room is going to have a phenomenal season this year. Like, let's not forget, Kevin Harris was the leading rusher in the SEC last season. regular season, that is. And that was the same season that you had Najee Harris in there. You still had Isaiah Spiller. Chris Rodriguez was still there. All these guys, Tank Bigsby, all these guys that you say are the greatest running backs in the SEC currently were mostly still here last season, and yet Kevin Harris outrushed all of them. Marshawn Lloyd coming off an injury. He'll get his first season of play, which everyone in Gamecock Nation is through the moon about watching him play. And then Zaquandre Wright, if you watched him at the spring game and even parts of last season, making some progress, could be a threat in this Gamecocks running back room. And then at O-line, I had to take Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt was the team that was really, really tough. They're not really strong in any position, which is the really tough part to pick against them. So they were more of a throw-in. I just had to throw them at the spot where I just felt like there needed to be there. I couldn't put any other team, so they were kind of a last-minute throw-in thing. D-line, I took Tennessee's. Linebackers, I took Arkansas, the Razorbacks. Obviously, they're going to have guys like Grant Morgan, Bumper Poole, and then finishing off with the DBs, I had the Auburn Tigers, obviously highlighting a guy in Smoke Monday, probably being the best guy out of there. But Auburn this season, like, let's not forget about this DB room, because you're going to talk about your Alabamas, you're going to talk about your LSUs, but in terms of a national level, Auburn's probably a top 10, at least top 15 DB room in all of the nation. People just don't talk about them like that because the rest of the team just isn't at the level that the DB room is right now. I think the D-line actually for Auburn is going to be pretty good this season. Basically, the defense in total, it's just there's a couple questions on offense that's really holding them back from that really high standard. But do not forget about Auburn's DB room, and they were the team that I was thinking about with the first team switching them out for LSU, because you put LSU's wide receivers in, you put Auburn at the DB room, and then kick Florida out. And then I was going to put Florida's DBs in at this team, but then I ultimately decided to switch that to Florida's wide receivers, and this is how it ended up. So that is my two teams. And just talking about if these teams played each other, first of all, I think the first team wins easily. But if you switch the offenses and defenses, so like let's say you have Team 1's offense and Team 2's defense on the same team going up against Team 2's defense. Team 2's offense and Team 1's defense, something like, what am I? Yeah. So you match up Team 2's offense with Team 2's defense, and then you have Team 1's offense with Team 2's defense. Who would win in that game? And I'm probably taking the Team 1 defense and Team 2 offense together, because look, I think that the offense is still decent for Team 2 in the sense of you got a good young quarterback there in Connor Bazelak who's going to do some damage. South Carolina running back room is still going to be good. First of all, your O-line is going to be pretty terrible, but let's be honest, you're going up against the second team. If you're going up against the first team defense, which is now on your team, that would be a problem. Them going up against Vanderbilt's O-line, I would be extremely concerned, but even the wide receivers at Mississippi State, I think, are going to be decent, and you match that up with the insane defense of Stingley, Allen, Davis, Wyatt, Walker, Ricks, Anderson, Toa, Harris. You're going to have the other Harris, Todd Harris at LSU. You're going to have Sage Ryan. All those guys, it's going to be some defense that you're going to have over there. And then really, if you were to match up this offense against the Team 1 offense, against the Team 1 defense, just have them go at it, have them go out and scrimmage this whole season, and I think the SEC would be fine. So that was kind of just my little fun thing that I had. Definitely was a ton of fun for me trying to mix and match and pick out what could be the best possible SEC team that I could possibly make, only taking one unit from each team, and this is what it came out to be. And I think we came out with some really, really good results, really, really good offense and an insane defense. And even the second team I think is really, really good, except for the O-line. The O-line is a struggle. I just couldn't take anywhere else in Vanderbilt. I could not take anywhere else in Vanderbilt. The only other thing for Vanderbilt that I was thinking about doing was maybe putting their wide receivers in, but like they're still towards the bottom of the SEC in wide receivers. But I just thought that Vanderbilt's going to be at the bottom anyways at whatever position we're going to put them at, so we might as well put them at a position where it doesn't affect taking away a top tier unit from any other team.